Just to give you a brief introduction from our side on the Lisbon pilot. I'm Eduardo Silva, my colleague Sara Freitas. We are both from Lisboa. We are not the municipality, as the IM. We are a private association that works not only with the municipalities, but brings together some of the most important stakeholders of the city and bring them to the same table to discuss the important issues for the city and the citizens of Lisbon, and with that support the development of policies during the executives, or supporting the executives from the municipalities on developing strategies and policies for, in particular, energy, environment, and climate, or all those related to these three issues. Just a brief introduction on our background and how the city has evolved till 2022. So our current situation and the way how we be involved in this project. Of course, I will not go into details for the last 15 years, but basically to say that the climate action in the municipality started more or less 15 years ago with the Covenant of Mayors, the signature of the Covenant of Mayors. And during these 15 years, the city has been through a path of development of different strategies, different plans that will lead to our current stage, basically defining or allowing the commitment of or assume the commitment for a climate neutrality by 2050 in the beginning, but in the beginning of this year, as recognized by the European Commission, Lisbon is one of the 100 climate neutral and smart cities by 2030, which means that we are currently developing a climate contract in order to achieve and pursue these objectives. This is still in the development. Currently, we have the climate action plan that also states this climate neutrality commitment, and that's our current stage. Just to highlight two important things on this slide, which is the process, and it's also important for many other cities. As soon as we have the municipal services involved in developing these strategies, these plans, from different teams, different departments, all working together to understand and ensure that, or make sure that they understand how much the different vectors are influencing and being influenced by the climate change and the climate risks. It's really important, and this has been clear with the recognition from the European Commission with the Green Capital Award in 2020. We all know that it was not the best year to achieve this, but in any case, it was a recognition not for being, and we all know, or at least for those who know Lisbon, it's definitely not the greenest of the cities. But in any case, the process we have conducted and the plans and strategies, the commitments the city has assumed and is currently pursuing, led to this recognition and being the first European capital from a southern country to be awarded with this award. So focusing on the climate neutrality, just to highlight the second important thing on this slide is that, of course, the hardest part of this path is not on the development of these strategies and plans and policies. It's rather on ensuring that is producing. Of course, they are actually implemented. It's not something that we put on the draw. They are actually implemented, and we are able to monitor the impacts we are achieving regarding the goals that are being defined. And for that purpose, also during the last years, we have been developing a lot of tools, a lot of methods, procedures to ensure that we are able to monitor the execution of these strategies and plans. And then this lead us basically to this consortium and this project in order to ensure, or at least to assess, how much the artificial intelligence is able also to support this assessment during the next years. So focusing on our goals and our climate neutrality goal, this means that by 2030 we need to reduce 2.45 million tons of CO2, which is a lot. This simple and very fancy chart you see on the slide presented the distribution and the effort that needs to be made by the different sectors of the city. Of course, we have transport and mobility that, as many other cities, need to make a huge effort to contribute to this goal. But more than that, in Lisbon, and we can easily see that is a really tertiary city. We don't have much agriculture, neither industry, but we can see that the buildings that are being represented here by the services, both services and the residentials, are responsible for more than 45% of the all emissions of the city. So that's where we are trying to focus. Also because there are some other municipal companies and teams that are currently working, and we are also supporting that, currently working on the transport and mobility measures. So focusing on buildings, we have developed this climate action plan that is focusing on 10 different intervention areas. These are the 10 we currently have, being the buildings and the energy and local production, so meaning renewables, to be installed in the city, one of these specific areas, and actually the ones that are a bit more evolved and detailed in terms of measures that to be implemented during the next years. So across all these 10 intervention areas, we have around 40 different measures, meaning projects to be implemented in the city, that has been subdivided in more than 100 actions to be implemented during the next years. Having this in mind, and moving to the motivation for our participation in this project, the goal was to ensure, or at least to assess, how much the AI can be supportive to monitor the implementation of these more than 100 measures we currently have regarding the implementation of the climate action plan. From one side, it's about informing how the consumption and the production is being made, or can be improved within the city. Again, the renewables, how much they are spread across the city. It's something that we currently do not have information on that, but also to understand about the best places and the best areas in the city in which they can be deployed. Also, to ensure that how much the solutions can support us on developing the efficient solutions, both in terms of energy, but also across other sectors as well. And again, to monitor the implementation of these efficiency measures. And for this, we have focused on 4 main building blocks of this strategy. One is about renewables. You see on the right side, the yellow line. The buildings, it's not only about the energy, and it's not only about its production, but also to ensure that the buildings we are dealing with, and actually the city is also quite old, very similar to Geneva, in terms of narrow streets, in terms of orography, it's really similar, which means that we have a lot to do in terms of improving energy efficiency for these buildings. And that this leads us to the third building block, that is about how much we need to invest to ensure the right efficiency for the buildings, and how much the municipality can support the implementation of efficiency measures. And last but not least, focusing on something that has been already mentioned a lot of times, the co-creation, because the project is about involving the stakeholders, the citizens. So we need to ensure that they understand what we are talking about when it comes to energy, at least to make sure that we have the right inputs, or the most accurate inputs from their side and their perspective in terms of how much the energy means to them. And to explain you to explain you the pilot in more detail, I will pass the floor to my colleague Sara.
Thank you, Eduardo, for this very nice introduction about our city and our energy issues and how we are tackling them in terms of strategy. So here focusing on what's the Lisbon pilot within the AI4PublicPolicy project. So we had these blocks, these measures, these different areas of intervention. And for us, it was easier to and we understand it very quickly that we should focus on the building side, the building stock, and the solar energy in terms of renewable technologies is the one that is most suited for Lisbon. So we had a couple of ideas for our use cases to explore in this project, and of course that's our perspective. So we needed to validate with the most relevant stakeholders, people from the energy sector, from other energy agencies, from the municipality itself, the relevant departments, and also from citizen groups. And we gathered together almost 20 people in the same room. We tried to create a relaxed environment, a creative environment with different methods to engage them, not just to talk and with the post-its, that's very usual. We tried to come up with different dynamics, and actually they told us they had fun while discussing, and we were able to validate some of the ideas we already had, but also to get new information on where new data sets, new data we could that could be used, where to get this data. Some of them could give us that data, also from their personal experience and day-to-day activities. Some of them are working in building a management, a condominium management and administration, so they can give us very realistic feedback on what is the conditions for solar energy application in the residential buildings, for instance. And this kind of perspective is very important for us as an energy agency, and of course for this project. Other thing that is very relevant is and it's becoming more relevant as we proceed with the project, is to understand also the degree of ambition and commitment from each one of these stakeholders, because some of them really engage in the beginning and in these very dynamic sessions. But if we want to repeat, we need to bring something new. We need to show to them that their inputs in the beginning have produced some results. And this is why we are planning to have more of these co-creation sessions, but already showing them some the results of the project. Also to maintain them, sustain their motivation and involvement with us, and to have them still on board and to help us think about these things. So okay, the first use case, as I mentioned, that we focused on is the renewable potential and performance analysis. So the solar photovoltaics installations in Lisbon. Just to mention that photovoltaics is the solar technology that allows us to produce electricity. Is different from the thermal solar technologies that are used to heat water. And this is, for us, is a very basic knowledge, but for the common citizen, usually it's very common, this confusion. And if we also want people to understand what we are doing, we need to start from the very basics and explain to them these kinds of things. And that's why we have created the solar platform of Lisbon that you can see in these pictures. And we have a map of the solar exposure for the city, in all of the rooftops of the buildings. And we have also produced another map that is the electricity potential that each one of the rooftops could have if they utilized all of the available area. And our third map is the map of current actual real installations that we can find in the city. And this is where the challenge arises here for this project. Because currently we are very far, our knowledge is very far from the reality. Because we have official data that tells us that we only have 8 megawatts of installed power currently. However, we know that we have slightly above this value, but we don't know exactly how much we have. So as Eduardo mentioned in the introduction, how can we understand if we are far from the goals that we have for 2030 if we don't know how much we have today? And some of the barriers for getting this information is also because owners do not report about their installations. And this is, we could say, a fault in the legislation, maybe, because as we proceed to tackle not the installation of individual systems, but we move into communities, the size of these installations that are obliged to be reported becomes larger. So if a person installs a couple of panels, they really don't have to say anything about it. And for us, that's another layer of difficulty into getting more information. And another thing is interesting to know is that about half of Lisbon's rooftop have good solar exposure. And unfortunately, we're still very far from tackling our potential. And within this project, we would really like to understand where are the best candidate places for these installations in the future. Okay. So after we have addressed our first use case, what we would like to get is a map, an evolution of the maps that we already have, and let us know exactly where the photovoltaic systems are located, so in which rooftop, the detail. And also to set up an automatic update of this map. So for this, we need images taken from the sky. And these kind of data sets are usually difficult to get. The municipality doesn't have a tradition of acquiring them every year. But the idea is to have a historical photograph of the photovoltaic systems in the city. also to make easier to plan and to prioritize the buildings where these systems could be installed, and eventually to create, to direct site-specific support mechanisms to help the local communities to go solar. So just a little bit of a detail about what is the data that we need to input for this computational model. One of these data is freely available, and we have them in the city data platform. Is the orthophoto maps of all Lisbon. Unfortunately, we only have available data from 5 years ago, and it's a difficulty because we will be having a portrait that is old, and if we have new data, it would be more accurate. And we also want to start step by step, so not run the model for the whole city because it's more complex, and we start with smaller pieces. So in Lisbon we have 24 civil parishes, and we decided to start to test the model in one of these parishes, and so we only need this data for this parish to set up the model, and then when we are satisfied with the results for this smaller area, we will run for the whole city. And finally, currently we are working on training the model that the technical team has already created. And it's very important to consider that in the training of this algorithm, we need to use images from our city. If another city wants to use this same algorithm, it will probably need a preparation phase in order to understand if it's okay to use the model as it is, or if it has to be trained again with more images from the place. Because in the case of Lisbon, we used a set of images that was freely available, but from California. Of course, the rooftops in California are not like the rooftops in Lisbon. Actually, in Lisbon, as you can see, we have horizontal and gray rooftops, and we have pitched and ceramic style rooftops. So in California, they don't have nothing like this. So the model in the first tests was a little bit, the results not so good. So we hope to get better results as soon as we train the model with these local images. And this is what we are working on. So we really hope to have better results in the near future. And I think that's it. Yes, thank you so much.